On this episode of China Uncensored, China stands up to neo-Nazis at American universities. Hi, welcome to China Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris Chappell. Safe spaces on university campuses. This is something the Chinese Communist Party cares about, at least when it comes to American universities. Last month, the University of California, San Diego decided to make a neo-Nazi this year's graduation speaker. Of course, I'm talking about this guy. What's that? You don't think of the Dalai Lama as a neo-Nazi? Well, you must have bought into all that fake news about him being a peaceful spiritual leader of Tibetans oppressed by the Chinese Communist Party. In fact, he's pretty much a Nazi. At least according to the Chinese Communist Party. Maybe somebody should tell them about Godwin's Law. Also, Saddam Hussein. You can imagine how students at UC San Diego must have felt about having Nazi Saddam Hussein as a commencement speaker. Actually, you don't have to. Let the words of the UCSD Chinese Students and Scholars Association educate you. It was on the Chinese WeChat platform. It says roughly, currently, the various actions undertaken by the university have contravened the spirit of respect, tolerance, equality, and earnestness. If the university insists on acting unilaterally and inviting the Dalai Lama to give a speech at the graduation ceremony, our association vows to take further measures to firmly resist the university's unreasonable behavior. Courts found further dissatisfaction from Chinese students at UCSD on Facebook. One says, #Chinese students matter. I mean, the Dalai Lama speaking at one university is pretty much the Chinese equivalent of racial prejudice against black people in the United States, right? And this one says, it's the same as forcing Muslims to eat pork, which, as we all know from delicious, delicious halal carts, is forbidden. According to a statement to UC San Diego's paper, the university doesn't seem like it's going to back down. To be fair, Chinese state-run media has opposed pretty much every public appearance of the Dalai Lama, like when he met with President Bush and President Obama. For generations, history textbooks in China, and I use the term history lightly, have portrayed Tibet as a feudal state ruled by an oppressive, slave-driving Dalai Lama until the glorious Communist Party liberated the Tibetan people. Those textbooks, of course, don't mention how the CCP is responsible for the deaths of more than 1 million Tibetans, including through torture, starvation, and executions, and the destruction of a huge number of Tibetan temples. But if you grew up reading that the Dalai Lama was a feudal dictator who enslaved his own people and that he's trying to split your country apart, of course you wouldn't want him to be your commencement speaker. But back to the Chinese Students and Scholars Association, or the CSSA. That's the group opposing the Dalai Lama speaking at UC San Diego. The CSSA is actually a nationwide organization found on many university campuses. It also receives funding and directives from the CCP through its consulates. Think about that. The Chinese regime, which considers itself to be at war with the United States according to their own internal documents, is funding and guiding Chinese student associations on American university campuses. In fact, in that letter the CSSA wrote, they even say the Chinese Students and Scholars Association has asked the Chinese consulate in Los Angeles for instructions, and having received the instructions, are going to implement them. And tells students not to act outside official guidance of the Chinese Communist Party, as specific measures to be taken will be elaborated on in future announcements. While that might seem like an overreaction by the Chinese consulate and the CSSA, the Dalai Lama belongs to one of the Chinese regime's no-go topics. So essential to the regime's disinformation that any positive mention of it anywhere in the world is a serious threat to its power. Inside of China, they don't have this problem. The Communist Party works hard to ensure Chinese universities are places where no conflicting ideologies or opinions can be spoken aloud, at least not since that pesky incident back in the 80s. But this is America, you say. And one of our strengths is allowing people to express conflicting ideologies or opinions. True. But freedom of speech doesn't guarantee freedom from consequences. Like the time in college when I screened the room for my entire dorm, and then they kicked me out the next day. Some people just can't appreciate true artistic genius. The point is, Chinese students can say what they want about the Dalai Lama, but other people can also point out when they're wrong. And maybe this is an opportunity to think about why they feel that way about the Dalai Lama and whether those opinions are based on twisted information created by the Communist Party. So what do you think of the Chinese Students and Scholars Association working together with the Chinese consulate to make American universities a safe place for Chinese students? Leave your comments below. And if you're a Chinese student in the U.S., we'd like to hear what you think too. Do you agree with the CSSA? Or has your view of the Dalai Lama or other aspects of Chinese history changed since studying in the U.S.? And once again, I'd like to take a moment to thank all the fans who contribute to China Uncensored on Patreon. Your support is what makes this show possible. Thanks for watching this episode of China Uncensored. Once again, I'm your host, Chris Chappell. See you next time. Mark Twain once said, "Clothes make the man." Naked people have little or no influence on society. That's why I always wear a suit. Always. But I didn't always used to have such great taste in threads. Until I met Monsieur Brunold.
Bonjour, Chris.
With 10 years of experience, Monsieur Brunold selects only the finest materials for your bespoke suits, made at his own factory in Europe. The perfect fit for the perfect suit for the active man. Whether you're skiing, mountain climbing, or uncensoring China.
So if you'd like to look as good as my friend Chris here, come visit our Manhattan location.
And the best part is, he won't make you just look good. He'll teach you everything you need to know about how to dress.
And as a bonus for China Uncensored fans, we'll throw in a free custom shirt with the purchase of a custom suit.
So if you want to stand up to the forces of evil while looking really good, visit my friend Monsieur Brunold next time you're in New York. Details below.